Ladies and gentlemen, the sequel to one of the greatest 3DS games of all time is finally coming out, and I couldn't be more excited. The game is coming out spring 2026 with no specific release date confirmed, but we don't have that much longer to wait. We've gotten 2 trailers for the game so far, and while they give us kind of a decent idea of what the game is going to be, at least in terms of like, this one looks like it's going to be much bigger in scope than the one on 3DS, overall it doesn't reveal a whole lot, and so that leaves a lot of room for imagination. There's still a lot we don't know about the game yet, so I want to do my top 10 wishes for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. My first wish for the game is that I don't want the player to have too much control. One of my biggest complaints with Animal Crossing New Horizons was that I felt like the amount of control you had over your island kind of took away from some of the spirit of the Animal Crossing series. And I still love that game. It didn't like ruin the game for me or anything, but it kind of took away from it just a little bit. And Tomodachi Life and Animal Crossing are both like pretty different games, but they're still both life sims. And I feel like if they do what they did with New Horizons and just, you know, give more control to the player and live in the dream, because like, oh, more control, more customization equals, you know, better player experience, I feel like it's gonna take away from some of the charm of Tomodachi Life. So for example, in the original game, you didn't have a lot of control over like the relationships. So who your islanders were friends with, who they got into romantic relationships with, they would like essentially ask you for permission for like going to be friends with someone or getting into a relationship with someone, but ultimately it was pretty random in terms of like who they like had feelings for or who they wanted to be friends with. And I feel like in the Switch one, if they made it so that you got to just decide like, oh, this islander is dating this islander is friends with this islander, it would take away from a lot of the fun and the wackiness and just the overall like unhinged feel of the 3DS one. Now, the latest trailer did hint at you being able to manually initiate the friend making sequence, but I still want it to be like completely up to chance whether or not they actually become friends. I really don't want it to be a situation where you can just manually say like, oh, this islander is friends with this person, because that's how it is in real life, and oh, this islander is dating this person because they're in a relationship in real life. I want it to be more organic feeling than that. The second thing I want in Tomodachi Life Living the Dream is more content to extend playtime. Now, my main issue with Tomodachi Life was that it feels like you see everything this game has to offer within like a week. It only takes about a week to like unlock everything on the island, and at that point you probably will have like several Mii characters in relationships and married, and some of the couples have probably already had kids by then. Overall, there just isn't a ton of reason to keep coming back to the game after the first like week or 2 of playing. So one of the more obvious ways they could extend playtime is having more locations on the island. Now, this already looks like it's going to be the case based on the trailers so far. It looks like there's a bunch of new locations on the island, so that's a really good sign. Hopefully there are more like events and stuff that take place at those locations. Like the first game would have stuff like Frisbee and the Magic Show and the Barbecue Mii Quest or Tomodachi Quest or whatever it was called. Just random stuff like that to just make the game even more interesting and add more variety to the things you can do. Another thing that would add a lot more playtime to the game is adding a lot more dialogue. Now, I feel like Tomodachi Life had a very similar issue as like newer Animal Crossing games, where it kind of feels like the islanders tend to say the same things over and over again. Like when you're first playing the game, like the dialogue it's so charming and quirky and funny, but again, after that first week, like it starts to get really stale because they're just always repeating themselves. So more variety to the dialogue would be much appreciated. Also, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't be on board with this, but just slowing down the pace of play would obviously be a very quick and easy and kind of cheap way to extend the playtime, but honestly, I feel like this game could benefit from it, because sometimes it does feel like the game moves a little bit too fast on 3DS. Like you just unlock stuff way too fast. So, like I said, you unlock basically all the locations like within the first week of the game, so if they were able to like slow down how fast you unlock everything, I personally think that would make the game more fun. My third wish for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream is I want it to still be intuitive feeling without the dual screens and then the touch screen of the 3DS. Now, obviously the Switch does have a touch screen, but most of my time playing this game is going to be in docked mode, so I want the game to still be intuitive when I'm just chilling on the couch with my Pro Controller. I remember when Mario Maker 2 was first announced, the very first thing that came to my head was, this isn't going to be nearly as intuitive without the touchscreen of the gamepad. I don't think that's going to be as big of an issue with Tomodachi Life on the Switch, because I feel like this is the type of game where it's pretty easy to imagine it working without the touchscreen. But you know, stuff like being able to drag food and like clothes and stuff over to your Mii character, it just felt so natural and easy. And it's little stuff like that that I'll probably miss a little bit, but I guess this game also benefits from, it's not like a port of Tomodachi Life, like it's a full-blown sequel, so it's being built from ground up for the Switch and the Switch 2. Overall, it's not something I'm concerned about at all. Like, I think it's gonna work just fine, but I hope it's still natural and intuitive feeling. I guess the other thing to consider is that this game will probably support the mouse controls on the Switch 2. I haven't used mouse controls a lot on the Switch 2, but I probably will a lot more for Living the Dream, assuming the game supports it. My fourth wish for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream is something that was missing in the first game, and it was very, very controversial, and that's same-sex relationships. Now, I would be absolutely shocked if this wasn't in Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. After the first game came out, obviously that game didn't have same-sex relationships, and that caused a pretty big uproar. You know, obviously for people weren't happy about that for very good reason. But so yeah, after the first game came out and it didn't have same-sex relationships, Nintendo actually issued a statement and they apologized for the lack of same-sex relationships in Tomodachi Life, and they said that any future entries in the series would have those relationships. So that's a pretty good indicator that this wish will come true, but it's still a really big one and it felt like an obvious thing to mention. I saw some people online analyzing this one scene in the trailer where there's this girl, I think she's like reading a book or something. I don't know exactly what I can't remember exactly what she's doing, but this like girl Mii character looks over at the other girl Mii character and like stares at her as she's walking by, and people are like, whoa, gay relationships are confirmed for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, and I'm like, I don't think that's what that was, but I feel like that's kind of reaching a little bit. But considering the statement that Nintendo issued after the first game, I think just based on that alone, probably gonna see same-sex relationships. And then I think I've never played Miitopia, but I've heard some people mention that game has same-sex relationships in it. I don't know for sure. I've never really played the game before other than the demo in the eShop, so Nintendo's on board with it now that we will probably finally see it. Just let people have themselves properly represented in the game. Let me add my friends and have them be properly represented in the game, and we'll all be happier. The fifth thing I want to see in this game is another thing that's related to relationships. I want them to solve the issue with age gaps in dating in this game. So I don't know if you remember this, but the way the first game did relationships and like age gaps was pretty clunky. So basically the Miis were separated into two very hard categories. There were the children, which were 0 to 17 years old, and then there were the adults, which are obviously 18 and up. And only Mii characters in the child category could be in romantic relationships with each other, and then only islanders in the 18 and up category could date. When you're not thinking about it too much, it seems like a pretty good solution to keep inappropriate relationships from happening on your island. The problem that comes with that is that any islander in the child category can date each other. So that means that technically a 17-year-old Mii character can date a 3-year-old Mii character. And that was an issue I ran into with a lot of my playthroughs. I would add, on a lot of my islands, I would add like my best friends' little brothers onto the island who were like 3 and 4 years old, and they would constantly be trying to get into relationships with people way older than them. So yeah, that's a pretty big problem. The other less talked about issue that comes with this is it's something that's a little more niche, but it's something that I dealt with when I played the game my senior year of high school, and it's that because the Mii characters are put in two hard categories, that means that 17-year-old islanders can't date 18-year-old islanders because, you know, 17 is considered a child and 18 is considered an adult. And I remember that specifically causing issues when I was a senior in high school because, like, obviously a lot of people, you know, when you're a senior in high school, you're between the ages 17 and 18 years old. So I remember like putting a bunch of people in like my friend group, my social circle onto the island, but I would have this issue where a lot of them like couldn't date each other because half of them were considered adults at 18 and the other half were considered kids at 17. And it's really like, it's not that big of an issue. It's only gonna present a problem for like a very specific like age group, but it's something that was still like really annoying that I had to deal with when I was playing the game at that specific point in my life. And it's something that I don't really think there's like a clear answer for, like to solve the issue where like, you know, 17-year-olds dating people that are like way younger than them. The obvious answer is to like add another age range to it. So like the the teenage age group. So you could do like, 0 to 12 is a kid, 13 to 17 is a teenager, and then 18 and up is an adult. It wouldn't make things perfect, but it would make things a lot better. I mean, there isn't really a perfect solution to this sort of thing in a video game. But as far as like the 17 and 18-year-olds being able to date, like I don't really know how you go about solving that. So that might just be one of those things where you just kind of have to suck it up. The way I dealt with it when I was in high school was I would just basically set like me and all my friends as like adults or kids or whatever, so that it would work out better. But yeah, I don't think the last one is a big enough of an issue that they would address it, but I do think they can address the first issue with inappropriate dating age gaps by even just adding one new age group. I think just adding a teenage age group would go a long way in terms of helping things. The sixth thing I want to see is Miitopia levels of character customization. Now, this is another one that seems very highly likely that we'll see. Like, you don't just make a customization thing like that so good and then just abandon it and then go back to the standard like Mii creation thing. But it's still a very, very big wish, so I feel like I have to mention it. This is another thing that the trailers seem to indicate will be in the game. I'm really excited to see all the crazy Mii characters that people will create. I'm personally really, really bad with that sort of thing. I don't think I'll be able to make very cool looking Mii characters, but I'm excited to see what other people will be able to make. And it's something, this is more of a feature I want for other people more than myself, because like I said, I won't be able to use the character creation thing to its fullest potential because I'm bad at making things. I'm not very artsy, but I'm excited to see what other people can cook up. The seventh thing I want is more social features. Most of the social features in Tomodachi Life on 3DS were done through Street Pass. Now, because Nintendo hates fun and we don't have Street Pass on the Switch and Switch 2, there will have to be other ways to introduce social features in this game. I'm not exactly sure like what that would be. The first game had features through Street Pass where you could have Mii characters from other islands visiting your island, and you could also get like, I think you could get like special foods imported as well as clothes and stuff. So you could probably have you could totally bring those features over to the new game without Street Pass, but I'd like to see some other stuff as well, like maybe being able to send gifts to friends and stuff. I don't know if visiting each other's islands would be much of a thing like in Animal Crossing, because I feel like visiting each other's islands would only make sense if you had a lot of like customization in your island, because I mean, if there's like almost no customization you can do to your island, then it doesn't really seem like there's much point in visiting other islands, because it would basically just be the exact same as your island other than the islanders that inhabit it. So I'm not exactly sure if that would be a thing. Kind of just depends on if they're doing a lot of like island customization thing in the new game. But yeah, more social features would be very much welcome. The eighth thing I want to see in Tomodachi Life 2 is more personality types. Adding more personality types would go a long way in making each of your islanders feel more unique. Based on what we've seen in the trailers, it doesn't look like there's any like additional character traits in the character customization screen to like, adjust and give your Miis different personalities. The ones we have seen look like they're basically the same as the one on 3DS, just maybe like reworded. So I'm not like super optimistic that we'll see more personalities, but I'm still hoping for it. The other thing I want is for the different personalities to affect the gameplay more. The different personalities in the first game, I don't exactly remember what they affected, but I think they would. I think it affected the dialogue. It would affect like the animation speeds of like them walking and them eating and stuff. I've been told that it affects like the relationships that your Mii will get into, but I haven't really noticed that much in my personal experience. It feels like it's all just completely random. Like if the personality does affect like the relationships your Mii has, it doesn't feel like it affects it that much. So overall, it would be cool if the Mii's personality affected the gameplay a little bit more. The ninth thing I want for Tomodachi Life 2 is kind of an obvious dumb one, but I want this game to be almost universally agreed to be worth the wait. I don't want this to be a situation like Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I don't mean to bash that game too much. Like it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's probably my second favorite Animal Crossing game. But the thing with that game was I feel like a lot of people's opinion on it was, this game is great, but, and they would give like some like really big glaring flaw that the game has that kind of holds it back from them saying it's their favorite Animal Crossing game. And I don't want that to be the case for Tomodachi Life 2. I want everyone to just agree that this is an upgrade in almost every way over the original. I don't want there to be some big catch with it where they're like, wow, the new Tomodachi Life game is great, but here's the thing, and then yeah, I don't want there to be any of that. Like with New Horizons, for me personally, I would always say this game is great, but they gave way too much control to the player, and it kind of takes away from the spirit of Animal Crossing. And so I just want everyone to agree that Tomodachi Life Living the Dream was worth the, 11 years of waiting or something like that, 12 years of waiting. We deserve to have a game that's just great across the board. And now finally, the 10th and most important thing I want for the new Tomodachi Life game is I want it to be just as wacky and weird and entertaining and quirky as the game on 3DS. I want the dream sequences to be just as wild and unhinged as in the first game. I want the dialogue to be weird and wacky. I want all just like the random weird quirks, all the random creative sequences and, funny moments of the first game. I want that all to be intact for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. And luckily, the trailers seem to indicate that the personality of this game is still there. It's still on full display. They still have even in this world of like super realistic AI voices, they still use the text-to-speech thing, which is just great to hear. There's all sorts of random bullshit in the trailer. I'm just happy to see that so far this game looks like it still has all of the charm of the first game. Everything seems to be intact, and I hope that is what the whole game is like. And those are my top 10 wishes for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. I'm sure after I upload this, I'm going to think of like a bunch more things that I wanted in this game, but these were the 10 that came to mind first. I cannot wait for this game any longer. It'll have been, I think, 12 years since the first game came out when this game finally comes out, and I can't believe we had to wait that long. It was such a beloved and popular game, but we're finally getting it. We're finally getting a new Tomodachi Life. It feels insane to say that, but we're finally getting one, and I just can't wait. I can't wait any longer. I'm sure I'll be talking about this game a lot more in the future, but for now, farewell.